After over 25 years as a wargamer, I'm convinced that the best time you can have in this hobby is playing in a Necromunda campaign. The immersion, the storylines, the grudges, they all combine for an exhilarating experience that can't be beat. And I'll prove it to you. For those who don't know, Necromunda is a game that takes place in the Warhammer 40k universe, a grim dystopian future. Only unlike 40k, which is a game of high-stakes battles between armies and super soldiers, Necromunda is about the vicious fights between criminal gangs in the towering hive cities. It's a lot more up-close and personal of a look into the Warhammer 40k universe, and it's a game with a lot more personality. And more importantly, instead of a boring battlefield on Planet Bowling Ball, it takes place on a dense, multi-level table that immerses you right in the action. I recently joined a Necromunda campaign in my area, and we're a couple games in now. I'm running the Goliath gang, the juiced up muscle freaks who specialize in short-range guns and brutal close combat. I made a video a while back about building the beginnings of this gang, but a lot's been added since then, so let me introduce you to them quickly. There's Big Rich, my leader. Thog, the massively muscled stimmer who I gave dermal hardening and overdeveloped musculature, giving him a terrifying 5 strength and 5 toughness right from the start. Gunner, a champion with a heavy bolter. By the way, a lot of these names are corny mnemonic devices to help me remember who they are. Like this is Gunner, he's got a big gun, get it? Or Smokey here, he's got smoke grenades. Booblaka has a shotgun, it's kind of like an onomatopoeia of a name.
Boot back, but he boot blocking shit.
Then we've got Hack, he hacks guys down, and Barco, who lets the bolter bark. Solid group of guys. Our first game was a big free-for-all, where we just wanted to meet up as a group and meet each other and go over the rules for new players and generally just get things rolling. I brought some of my own terrain, and one of the players brought some MDF terrain that had been provided for the club to use by a friend of his. We had an absolutely fantastic time, and it's a great group of guys, which is really promising for the campaign. But the MDF terrain was not painted, which I couldn't help but feel diminished the experience a little bit. So I offered to take it home and give it a quick lick of paint. This way the club will have a nice base of terrain to build on as the campaign progresses. This MDF terrain is comprised of 2 kits from TT Combat, and it's a basic, durable set of terrain that can be configured in a ton of different ways, making for great gameplay. There's very little detail, however, and it's got some flaws I'm not going to focus on. Voltaire once said, "Perfect is the enemy of good," and what he meant by that, presumably, was that with just a few coats from a rattle can, the terrain will look 70% better than it did when it was unpainted, even if it still looks a little bit mid. There are tons of buildings, a zillion little railings and walkways that clip on and things like that, so any other method would take forever. I used rattle cans from Home Depot, and the nice thing about them is that they're heavy duty and include primer in their formulation, which will help to seal up the MDF. MDF is a porous material, and it's thirstier than a Bactrian camel after doing the cinnamon challenge, so if untreated and exposed to liquid, it will swell up and warp, and that's no fun. So in addition to adding color, the primer adds durability as well. I did a generous coverage of black, and then came in with some brown, mostly from above. What I'm going for here is the worn, weathered steel look of those steel plates that you see on the road sometimes when they're doing construction. To get a bit of metallic shine, I gave them a light dusting with some silver paint, which I've done before successfully, but the paint that I used this time must have had just massive flakes of metallic pigment in it, so it ended up looking a little bit sparkly. And anyways, in a panic, I grabbed some spare nitrile gloves and I started dabbing at the flat surfaces, adding some variation and streaks that'll look pretty nice when it's done. To be honest, it looks way sparklier on camera than it does in person. That looks kind of crazy. Anyways, the point is, it was quick, it looks pretty good, we're not going to get bogged down in diminishing returns trying to make it like competition level. This is good to go. After each round of the campaign, you get a little bit of money to spend on your gang. I immediately hired an ammo jack who I called Wire, which is a really dumb play on the fact that he looks a lot like Cable from the Marvel Universe.
Wire.
I warned you, the names are dumb, but I won't forget them, which counts for something. I also slightly misread the rules at this point of the campaign, and I thought that I needed more regular gangers than I did. I was feeling very stingy with the credits, so I decided to use gene smithing, which is something that normally allows you to make your guys more expensive and better, to make them less expensive and worse. Now luckily I had this old metal Goliath model who looks insanely short compared to the newer models. Meet Chud, who I gene smithed with Doc's failure, indicating a failed medical procedure to become a Goliath, which leaves him with -1 movement and -1 strength. Just these simple changes give the guy so much personality, and I personally am rooting for him. For the second round of the campaign, I hosted some of the guys from the group at my house so I could set up my own terrain, and I played against the Chaos Cult, competing to claim the Fighting Pit territory. We set up a makeshift fighting pit in the center of the table, and we each nominated a ganger to put in it to fight while the rest of the battle goes on around it. I, of course, had a new guy with something to prove, so in went Chud, and unfortunately he was up against a cultist with a flamer. But Chud did not shame himself. He's still a Goliath, goddammit, and that toughness 4 paid off. They had an absolute slugfest, and while neither guy went out of action, he gained everyone's respect. Meanwhile, my massive stimmer Thog took out 2 guys single-handedly, and Bublaka fell in the vat of toxic waste and was taken out of action instantly, which was pretty awesome. After a few gruesome kills, my opponent ended up bottling out, giving me the win and control of the fighting pit. Hell yeah. So one of the best parts about a Necromunda campaign is the continuity between matches, which leads to fun stories emerging. In the post-battle sequence, I ended up capturing one of my opponent's Chaos Cultists. This is the sort of thing that really allows rivalry to build between the players. My opponent was nice enough to let me hang on to the actual model of the ganger that I captured, which allowed me to send him images of his guy being tormented in captivity in between the matches. I decided to place Chud in charge of his captivity, and turns out Chud is as petty as he is cruel. I mean, come on, stuff like this is just so much fun. That night, I actually set up 2 tables of terrain, and you can see here just how much better the MDF terrain looks with a coat of paint on it. As part of this process, I realized just how much I enjoy making things for others to use. So I decided to build a few extra durable pieces for the club to use, helped by the sponsor of this video, Bamboo Labs. I used the Bamboo Labs A1, and I have to say, 3D printing is really an invaluable resource for terrain. First of all, the speed, which is obviously incredible. I love scratch building my own terrain, but it's not an either-or thing. You can do both, and while you work, your printer can be filling out your table with even more cool elements. The A1 in particular does a really cool calibration process that measures the micro vibrations and frequencies the printer makes, and then applies a noise cancelling algorithm, so it's quiet enough that I work beside it while it's running sometimes, and it doesn't bother me. I found a bunch of cool files I liked and printed up a bunch of stuff. Obviously, one of the best parts of Necromunda is when guys fall into tanks of goo, so I printed up some of these neat chemical vats which I found on my mini factory. The print quality from the A1 is really impressive, and the layer lines are subtle enough that I don't even feel the need to sand or fill them in at all for a quick piece of gaming terrain. The goo that goes inside them is a separate piece, so you can potentially have a bunch of different contents that you could easily swap out. Maybe you could even store some scatter bits in these. Never mind, the lid doesn't stay on. Anyways, I brushed a few layers of waterproof wood glue onto the goo bits just to get a smoother texture, and then I painted them with my airbrush and some dry brushing. I used some fluorescent pigments and ended up with some pretty bright and toxic looking goo. I did a similar paint job to the MDF bits, only this time I dry brushed on the silver instead of spraying. I also did a nice dark wash, which helps add contrast, grime, and realism, and then a thin wash of rust color. I also added a few transfers from various kits, which add some nice detail. To make them look a little bit less new and shiny, I glazed over some brown contrast paint, which ties them in nicely with the model. Guys, that meme is dead. Grow up. I don't know, guys. I think these look pretty awesome. I think my gaming club will be happy to have these in the Necromunda tub. I also printed up a handful of scatter terrain, and since we're in a goo mood, I painted this one to look like a tank full of some effervescent liquid. Maybe this is some of my Goliath's coveted anabolic agents bought in industrial quantities. One of my favorite things though about filament printed terrain is how durable it is. I love playing on scratch built terrain, but I wouldn't dream of leaving my meticulously crafted handmade projects in a tub at the community center for people to abuse. People can be a little more rough with these printed pieces, and they handle it really well. Anyways, thanks Bamboo Labs for sponsoring this video. Check out the link in my description to get an A1 for yourselves. So after game 2, of course, I hired some more guys. Rano, this Juve who's converted from the 40k Jackals kit, and Slump, who's another ganger with health issues, gene crafted to make him cheaper. This time I gave him Terminal Biology, which gives you an additional 1 in 6 chance to spontaneously die if you're injured in battle, because his body is just not coping well with the extremes of his lifestyle. On a more serious note, in real life, extreme bodybuilding is kind of a death cult, and it seems like every year top-level competitors who should be in their physical prime die from complications of the lifestyle. The cocktails of drugs and extreme strains on the body from losing XX body fat lead to a mortality rate that's like 10 times higher than normal athletes. Don't get it twisted, lifting weights is healthy and good for you, but if you're a young person watching this and are thinking about taking anabolic drugs to build a superhuman physique, don't do it. Stay natural, stay healthy. Sorry for preaching, guys, that's just the dad in me, I had to throw that message in there. Anyways, to make Slump look like his body is succumbing to the negative effects of the extreme stims, I painted on some veins spidering up the side of his head. I think he looks pretty unhealthy. Controlling the fighting pit also lets me hire 2 Hive Scum mercenaries for free. So enter Andar from the Ratskin tribes, and Gage, who's actually based on a real person, a friend of mine. The guys from the Hive Scum podcast had minis made of themselves as Hive Scum, and since Gage had the best loadout, I brought him along. Spoiler alert, he did cock all in the battle. Thanks for nothing, Gage. I also brought this absolute unit, Truck, who I Gene Smith to be extra fast. Before Game 3, I also decided to invest in some cool lights to hang above my table. These are so awesome, check this out. Now, with a quick setting adjustment on my phone, I can add a ton of different ambiances. I can even simulate a night game, which Necromunda has special rules for. How sick is that? This is not really related, but this night table just reminded me of one of my friends who got me into Warhammer when we were like in 6th grade. And he had a bit of a interesting relationship with the truth. And one of the stories that he told me that I thought was really cool was he said he went to a night battle at Games Workshop and all the lights were off and he only moved his striking scorpions when his opponent wasn't looking, so he was able to have the element of surprise, which is like in hindsight just so clearly a fabrication, but still a good story. Rest in peace, Jeff. Game 3 was another win for the bad guys, and we seized the Needleways from the squat prospectors. I took very little footage, sorry, I was too busy living in the moment, and we had limited time to get the game in, so we were trying to be efficient. But we had an absolute blast, and luckily, people who tend to be into Necromunda tend to be pretty cool, so it's easy to have a good time. And that's where we are now. The campaign is just heating up and getting good. I'm having so much fun, and to be honest, I'm feeling inspired and energized by the whole process. The first Necromunda campaign that I played back in 2019 was kind of the whole inspiration for the early direction of this channel, and I'm really happy to be sort of capturing that same feeling of inspiration and creative drive again. As much as I love Warhammer 40k and Warhammer the Old World and Horus Heresy and even Mordheim, I have to say, nothing quite compares to a Necromunda campaign. Don't just take my word for it, try it out sometime. And we are just getting started. If you watched my last video before this, you'll know that I just came into the possession of a really wonderful set of scratch-built Necromunda terrain by the late Polo Belmar, and I have some big plans for later in the campaign for us to play some battles on those tables as well. So, some of you might be wondering, why am I making this video now instead of after the campaign is over when I can give a full summary and really sell the whole thing? Well, one reason is I felt like it, and the other reason is that my wife just gave birth to our second child. I had planned to get this video out actually before it happened, but things don't always go to plan, and my daughter is here now. She's healthy, the mom's healthy, they're home now, everything's wonderful. But I'm going to take a little bit of time off, not a huge amount, yeah, I just wanted to get out a video sort of in the interim here. If you want to wish me well at all, the nicest thing that you could do would be to sign up for my Patreon page. Obviously that's a huge help to me getting these videos out, and I really appreciate all your guys' support. And for those of you who are wondering about my 7-foot Titan, a big update for that is coming as well. As soon as my routine stabilizes, I'll finish up that video and post it as well. Thanks for tuning in, guys, and we'll see you next time on Eric's Hobby Workshop.